The third week of Karen Reed's second murder trial wraps up today. Reed is accused of hitting her Boston police officer boyfriend with her SUV and leaving him to die in the cold after a night of drinking back in 2022. Now, the defendant has maintained her innocence and says she's, in fact, being framed. CBS News Boston reporter Penny Commit is outside the courthouse there in Dedham, Mass. This is just outside of Boston. Good morning. State Police Sergeant supposed to return to the stand. Catch us up on his testimony and why it's seen as so significant at this stage.
Good morning, Errol. Yeah, that's right. You know, you were just talking. Karen Reed is not only saying that she's innocent, she's also saying that she's being framed, and by who? Well, the state police and the local police department. So Sergeant Yuri Buchanan was on the stand yesterday. He's going to be again today. He was the supervisor of the lead investigator on the case, whose name is Michael Proctor. I'm sure you've been following this case. You know who Michael Proctor is. Not only was he the lead investigator, but he was fired from the Massachusetts State Police after the first trial, in part due to some pretty lewd text messages that he sent about Karen Reed. He called her a whack job and far, far worse that he had to read on the stand during the first trial. So what's been interesting about the second trial is Michael Proctor has not taken the stand. That's very rare, again, considering he is the lead investigator on this case. And yesterday, Sergeant Buchanan, his supervisor, who I will note did have to forfeit 5 vacation days because of all this information that came out. Buchanan was on the stand yesterday, and he had to read text messages that Proctor sent about Karen Reed and about her defense attorneys. They obviously weren't very nice. So that's been kind of interesting about the second trial, is now other people are reading texts from Proctor, which makes us think maybe the lead investigator is not going to be called to the stand at all by the prosecution.
Wow. And now I know that Reed's angry voicemails to her boyfriend were played in court this week. When were the voicemails from, and how does that play into the prosecution's case? And I'm wondering how the defense dealt with that.
Yeah, so they look at these voicemails in 2 totally different ways. So Karen Reed left several voicemails on John O'Keefe's phone several minutes and hours after he died and before his body was found. So the prosecution uses these to paint that she hated her boyfriend. I mean, she says in these messages, quote, "John, I expletive hate you," and several other not so nice things. But the defense says, why would she leave voicemails if she knew that he was dead on someone's front lawn? So these voicemails are being painted into totally different ways by each side. I'm sure they'll come up again during the course of this trial.
Penny, you got a front row seat to a wild trial to follow. We appreciate your reporting there from outside of the courthouse. Thank you for that.